Welcome to the Lead Gen Leaders Podcast, connecting you to the leading minds in home improvement to discuss all things marketing and leadership. And now, your host, Kyle Powers.
Welcome to the Lead Gen Leaders Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Powers. And today's topic and guest is a very interesting one to me. In fact, I believe today's topic is what separates the great companies from the good companies. And that topic is innovation. And my guest today to talk about innovation is someone who has proven that he can innovate time and time again and continue to build strong companies and brands around innovation. Super excited to have him on the show today because his innovation allowed him to be on Shark Tank, where he was able to do a deal with the queen of QVC, Lori Greiner. So I'd like to welcome to the show to talk all about innovation, Joe Alteri. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Kyle.
Hey, I want to first thank you so much for being on the Lead Gen Leaders Podcast today. Super excited to talk about the topic that we're going to bring up on innovation. But before we get into that, could you maybe tell the listeners a little bit, about you, who you are, kind of your background in the home remodeling industry?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me on, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your listeners. Just to give you a real brief history, first of all, my dad was a tin man. So for those of your listeners who are over 45, 50 years old, they know that a tin man was somebody who sold aluminum siding and aluminum windows. So I grew up in a remodeling home, doing role playing with my dad. Things like that. Just that was our form of fun, I guess, was practicing homeowner pitches. I had a weird upbringing, I guess my claim to fame in the window industry is I invented a new type of window screen several years ago. I've been in the window industry for about 20 years. I was an independent sales rep selling pieces and parts to window manufacturers, and one of the things I sold was window screens. And several years ago, I started experimenting in my garage and came up with a prototype that I showed off to some people in the industry, and they went nuts for it. And so I got some investors together and opened up a little company called Flexscreen. And over the last year or so, it's gotten a little bit of national attention, and it's been an exciting journey for sure.
Yeah, and the attention that it's got, you were on the show Shark Tank, correct?
Yeah, I was trying to be humble, but yeah, Shark Tank contacted us last spring, and we shot last year, and we aired on January 5th of 2020, and we partnered with Lori Greiner, and it's been a fun journey since then. Shark Tank is one of my team said it's the Super Bowl of small business, and it definitely felt that way preparing for it, and we're seeing the effects of it. It's incredible what that show does for any product brand, things like that, especially for something like us in the window industry, where something like that's never really been seen before. So it's been quite the ride.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. And for the listeners, if you'd like to see the cut of that episode, you can go to flexscreen.com and you're able to see that on there. I watched it and it was absolutely fantastic. And when it comes to lead gen and moving products and getting sales, I would think Lori would have to be just an awesome person to work with on that kind of stuff.
She is. She's a genius. I mean, let's be honest. She's a person who took a stool that you used to go to the bathroom and made it a household name with Squatty Potty. You know what I mean? Like who does that? And but she has of the top 10 most popular products in Shark Tank history. She has 8 of the top 10 highest grossing products in Shark Tank history. She has Scrub Daddy, Squatty Potty, a couple other ones that have just blown up. So her and her team are marketing geniuses. They're really, really good at what they do.
Awesome. And that probably breaks down to a lot of good innovation too at getting that done, which kind of, brings me to, My next question with you, and the real reason why I wanted to talk to you, at my last company I worked at, Tunderland, the owner, Brian Gottlieb, had said to me once, I had asked him, what's one of the most important things you think I can do as a leader in your organization, in the role that I was in, which was face-to-face marketing. And he said, I want you to be an innovator. And that wasn't something that I thought he was going to say. I was looking at, hey, learn how to lead people, build a great team, that kind of stuff. And he said,
Right.
be an innovator. And that kind of took me back. And so I really wanted to, I'm like, well, what do you mean by that, Brian? And he said, well, I want you to not be afraid to try things. This industry has been known to really, when something comes around, everyone wants to call their other buddies in the industry. Hey, are you doing this? Is it working for you? What kind of numbers should I expect? And a lot of times they get a little, gun shy if they don't, get good results. Their friends don't get good results. They don't, necessarily want to get into that program. And so, being innovative, and he said, you're going to try some things that are probably going to fail, that aren't going to work. And that's okay, because I bet you that we're going to come out with some new things that are going to be home runs and we could completely change the industry with. And essentially that's what you did. I mean, in an industry that's been extremely, stagnant on innovation, you came out with a product that had never been seen before or even, thought of before, that you know of. Can you maybe tell me a little bit about kind of how that innovation came about and what moved you to, start that process of even looking at building a new screen?
Well, truthfully, I was, the need for something new. So regular window screens have been around. They were patented in 1907. So a metal window screen with rubber spline. So it's over 100 years. Nothing has changed in the screen industry. And again, the window industry as a whole is kind of, it has a lack of innovation in a lot of ways. And that's from, the windows themselves up through even the way that we market and sell them. There's not a lot of new and exciting things, and especially in the window screen industry. So I was just trying to come up with something different. It was a little kind of a hobby, in my garage, just, hey, I was sick of having all these problems, my customers having all these problems. So I just started messing around with a bunch of different things. And I failed so many times, Kyle. I mean, it was incredible how many ways I've found not to make window screens, different substrates not to, that didn't work and things like that. And when I finally had that prototype, and actually when we finally opened the first plant, the developing the product was one thing, but trying to get a new product into a mature market was another. And especially because I'm a sales guy, I was a sales rep, so I went out trying to sell. And that became very difficult because, you're out there showing features and benefits and all that stuff, but there's only so much that you can do through selling. And about 2 years in, I'm like, this just does not work. Like, I have to do something bigger, bolder, that kind of thing. And we changed from a sales organization to a marketing organization. Now, again, we still have sales guys out there. We still do the meetings, and I still do one-on-one presentations and presentations with large groups of people. We still do the selling part of it, but we made a shift to being a marketing company. And that's what really changed. That's what really changed our company, and that's also what got the attention of Shark Tank. We've decided that first of all, digital marketing for us was what was key, because I couldn't afford a 30-second spot on the Super Bowl, of course. You know what I mean? I'm a startup company, trying to get a new product out. But digital marketing, can be very inexpensive and hugely impactful. So we went all in on digital marketing, and it paid off. It paid off huge. So you want me to go into a little bit more specifics with that? I know I kind of left that sort of vague.
Yeah, no, that's good. Just kind of, giving the listeners an idea of, you kind of see something that has been that way, and just, the idea of tinkering, right? A hobby of just, how do I make this better, and get more products moved. And, the evolution of, hey, you created this product, now I need to sell it. But what you really found out is you need to market, first. And we see that so much in the home improvement companies. They got great sales guys. They just don't have the leads to feed them. right? And so you got to get the leads. And, talking about the digital marketing side of things, with this whole pandemic thing that has happened, I know of quite a few companies that kind of doubled down and, were able to get digital media good buys. We're able to get TV buys, even all the way down to 25 cents on the dollar of what the rates were before, and just blasted media in, are having record months. And now we're seeing, that same thing with them, innovating with their canvassing programs, and shifting a bunch of, because events are pretty much non-existent now. So shifting their teams, into canvassers and are absolutely killing it. I don't know anyone that's really not that I've talked to, because they made that change and I guess I would say innovated a little bit, kind of took a different approach to what they were doing. So that's really great just to kind of see and learn that kind of stuff. And so for a company, how would you to kind of stimulate that innovation? Because I see so many people that just want to do the same old. And, for me, I always had the thought that if you're not growing, if you're not changing, you're essentially dying. You're going the opposite way. And so, it's not anymore if you do the same thing every day, get the same results kind of thing. It's do the same thing every day and get less results over time now, especially with the rapid changes of our environment that have happened this year. What advice might you give a company on innovating? Because I know, like with your company, you like to really rely on, younger guys that maybe don't have the history of experience in the industry to come up with these great ideas. I've seen some of the new videos you put out with them and stuff, and they're just great. So what are your thoughts on, a company starting to maybe innovate and try some different things?
Well, the first thing, especially when it comes to marketing, I have there's a rule in our office that if somebody else in the window industry is doing it, I don't even want to hear about it. So if we have a brochure that looks like something that somebody else is doing, we reject it. If there's social media posts that somebody's doing, we're on to something else by then. Even our trade show booths and stuff like that. When trade shows happened, last year, we looked at it and said, hey, here's traditionally how companies in the window industry do stuff. And we spent, our original trade show booth, we spent a ton of money for us at the time. And we scrapped it. Last year we said, look, this is what everybody else looks like, and we're going to do something different. So we did a huge, pop-up backlit display, very, very minimalistic, and just did something different than what everybody else is doing. And we had lines down the aisle of our trade, at the trade shows. So, that's the first thing, is that, I don't want to hear what everybody else is doing. And as a matter of fact, as we were making some changes with our marketing and branding, I would have some of our sales guys come and say, what are you doing? Suddenly you're all over social media. You're doing these weird videos, can your screen do this? And you're throwing them off of roofs and running them over with cars. What in the heck? I'm like, look, we're getting attention. We're doing stuff different. And that is in a mature market, it's vital. It really is. I mean, how many commercials for buy 2 windows, get 1 free can a consumer see without becoming immune to that message?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a book that I love. I've talked about it a couple times with some other groups, but it's called Fascinate, and it's by a woman by the name of Sally Hogshead, and she's a marketing she's a marketing guru, and her big, her claim to fame is a quote that says, "Different is better than better." So, a window company that goes out and says, "Hey, we're better," or maybe you have a slightly better product or an improvement on a product or a marketing scheme or canvassing, whatever those things might be. Being completely different is actually, in the long run, better than just trying to make incremental improvements on something that somebody else is doing. And like I said, we're living proof of that. If I went out and tried to make a slightly better window screen and market it in the same way that my competition is doing, it just simply wouldn't get much attention. And that's what we had tried to do originally, at least with our marketing strategy. Go out there and say, hey, here's why our product is performs better, does better, whatever the case may be. But when we came out and said, here's why we are strikingly different, it changed the game. I mean, we went from, our first year of a couple $100,000 in sales, the year after we made the switch to, going out there and really being proud that we were different and screaming it from the rooftop, so to speak. I mean, we jumped up millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of sales that next year. And then, of course, Shark Tank contacted us, who found us through social media. And again, if we were doing traditional social media, which, you can go on LinkedIn or Facebook and see what everybody else in the window industry is doing, which is, hey, here's a job that we did that has our product on it. There's just nothing different about it. If I showed pictures of a job with our screen in it, nobody cares. It's not exciting. It's not, it's not different enough to get attention. But when we have me pounding stuff with a hammer, or like I said, driving things over with a car, things like that, it jumped out at the Shark Tank producers, and they got a hold of us and said, wow, this is something strikingly different, not just a little bit better.
Absolutely. So I think really it boils down to you've created that culture. One of my favorite sayings that I always say, that as a leader, you get what you create or you allow, and you're not allowing them to be the same old, and you're creating that change, that difference, that innovation, even in the marketing, because you're not allowing them to do what anybody else is doing. So they have to innovate, right? So creating that culture, I think, is really that great first step. And I, being in the industry for a long time and doing things that, worked, I always wanted to be like, no, we're going to go do this. I know I can make this work. I know I can be profitable. And, being told, no, let's think of something else we can do with that. Well, I don't think that other thing will work. Well, okay, what does it look like if it did work? What would it take to make it work? And kind of reverse engineering it that way to come out with new things and to, make old things much better and, new additions, so to say, on top of it. And so I think, step one, like you just said, create that culture and don't allow it to go back to the same old. So that's, that's some really great points for the listeners there on that. And so you had brought up that, you said, how many, buy two, get one free, or, buy one, get one 50% off window ads, can someone see? And guess what? They do work. I mean, obviously guys run them, right? They do work, but how do you break out from that pack like you did and become something totally different? And I think I've seen some companies do that, with some different things, and they get good steam for a while. And the thing is, I think you have to continue to innovate, because once that kind of becomes the norm now, you got to do it again, and you got to continue to do it over and over, and keep innovating to keep growing and keep getting that high lead flow in. What are some other points you might give, a company that wants to take their first step at breaking out of the pack?
Well, I think, and you had mentioned this earlier, my home office staff is very young. I am by far, I bring the average age up by about 15, 20 years. So, bringing people in with an outside perspective and not trying to fit them into your mold, giving them a real opportunity to see what you're doing and make those innovations without having some sort of, detrimental view of their career because they're trying new things is huge. That's really, really big. For us, again, I'm a big proponent of, every time I pay for somebody to make a mistake, that's an investment in that person. So, I had somebody, made a couple $1,000, blunder. And again, they did it, for all the best intentions. You know what I mean? They were trying something new and it just didn't work. And they came into my office like, hey, boss, this didn't work. I don't know what to do. If you're going to fire me, just do it now. I'm like, look, that education just cost me a couple grand. Why would I fire you now? That makes no sense. What did we learn? All right, let's not do that again. What can we do different? And that's huge for this next generation of people that are coming into the window and door industry. I mean, because again, the suit and tie, sales guys, they're going to start aging out. That's not who is entering the job market anymore. It's guys with tattoos. It's people that look a little bit different than look a little bit different, talk a little bit different, act a little bit different than this mold that we try to put people into. And guess what? They can be fantastic sales and marketing guys, and they're going to know what that next generation is looking for. The fact of the matter is, a 25-year-old that buys their first house and needs windows, the 65-year-old guy that's been selling windows for 35 years, they probably don't relate to them. And they probably don't trust them, and they probably have their guard up as soon as that person comes to the door. So, what are you going to do different to reach those, that younger consumer that is very rapidly becoming your listeners' primary consumer? So
absolutely. Some more good points there. So, I mean, essentially what you said so far is creating the culture of innovation to begin with, and then creating a culture of growth, because you want your people to learn, and really the only way you do learn is by making mistakes. I've learned much more from mistakes and failures, and fail certainly is not a bad word in my world, but I've learned more for those than I have learned from any of my wins that I've had. So you got your culture of innovation, the culture of growth, and then, the last thing I really heard you say is just really, changing with the times, not just running the same old when it's working, but is to continue, like you said, it does that, guy that's been in the business for 40 years that, still wears a tie when he goes out to sell windows. Does that work when he's selling to a 25-year-old, first time home buyer couple? It may, but chances are probably not as much as if you changed some things and innovated some ways to reach that, that demographic in the sales. So Joe, kind of brings me to the last segment of the podcast, which is called Power's Powerful Point. What powerful point may you have for the listeners today?
We've talked about this for the whole podcast, but be different. That's if I can give any advice to any company is find a way to be different. That to me is the key going forward. Just find your way of being unique out in the marketplace, and then double down, triple down, go after that, whatever that thing is. Shout it from the rooftops, because uniqueness, especially in this world where digital is king, and people go from one thing to the next, and they have these very short attention spans. Different will keep their attention. So that's my PowerPoint of the day. So.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Joe. I really appreciate your time on the show. And like you said, don't be afraid to be different. So really appreciate you, and look forward to maybe having you on a future episode.
I look forward to it. Thanks a lot, Kyle.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Lead Gen Leaders Podcast. For a free consultation on how Tony Hoty Training and Consulting can assist with your home remodeling business, please visit TonyHoty.com. That's TonyHoty.com. Thank you for listening.